We are about to spitfire, get ready to rumble, so that we can get through the rest of the day. I've asked them to bring the coffee back, so that we can get some of that liquid gold. And I'm going to invite up to the stage Dr. Phyllis Walker. Do a quick. Dr. Phyllis, by passion, created a consultation business to talk about and help private schools become accredited. And so in her session today, she's going to be talking about the importance of that accountability factor, some myths around it, and what we can all do in order to gain more knowledge around that process. By day, she is the associate dean of students at FAMU.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am not the dean of students at Florida A&M University. Thank God for that. I am the associate dean for the College of Social Sciences, Arts, and Humanities at the university, and I'm responsible for our specialized accreditation programs, our assessment, operational effectiveness type activities, strategic planning, things like that. So yeah, that's very different, but I knew it was a long thing. But thank you, Denisha. So we are going to quickly go through this area of accreditation. And I want to start out by saying that this is very important in terms of the title. It's a tool. It is a tool for operational effectiveness. It is not what I consider an indicator of operational effectiveness. And I think that that's very, very, very important, because sometimes we tend to think that being accredited means that we are operating effectively. Well, that's not necessarily true. You know, when people come to your house and you can throw stuff in the closet and make it look real beautiful, but as soon as they leave, it goes right back to the hot mess that it was before they got there. Well, you can do the same thing with accreditation. But anyway, we are going to delve right in. I have 3 objectives for this presentation today. One is to enhance your knowledge and understanding of accreditation, to dispel some myths about the accreditation process, as well as to raise your awareness of some of the benefits of being accredited, because there are some. So the accreditation really just means the action or process of officially recognizing someone or something being qualified to perform a particular activity. That is like the textbook or dictionary definition of what accreditation is. So when we talk about K through 12 accreditation, we're talking about the process of officially recognizing that a school is qualified to educate children in grades K through 12. That's what it is. And this process consists of a review of the school's programs, their facilities, their operations, and they're compared to a certain set of standards. And the agencies come out to look to see if the school is operating according to those established standards. And that's how they determine whether or not a school is qualified to educate children from in K through 12. Now, there are some functional areas that the accrediting standards cover, and they're academic affairs, so that would be like your curriculum and your faculty, student affairs, discipline issues among your students, how you're dealing with that, as well as after-school activities or during school activities, your business affairs such as your human resources department, finance, if you serve food, lunch, how you operate your cafeteria, those types of things. School advancement is basically dealing with how you relate to the public, how you present yourself to the public, whether you're telling them what it is that you're doing and how you deal with those types of issues. That can also relate to any type of fundraising activities that you're doing. And then school effectiveness, that relates to whether or not you have an established system of some type of assessment process in order to determine if you are looking at how well you're doing what you're doing and constantly improving. And that is one of the main purposes of the accreditation process. It's just like a main focus, is that ongoing improvement, accountability, and improving what it is that you're doing to ensure that you're doing what it is that you say you're doing. Another functional area that that should be on here is also your governing board. That is particularly true for 501c3 organizations. They are going to want to see that your governing board is operating like it should. So if you are compliant with the standard, it indicates things like the school has a functioning, trained, and informed governing board. It's operating using written policies and procedures. The school is staying true to its mission and core values. The school has a curriculum that is aligned with its educational objectives, and that the school has qualified teachers and staff who are receiving ongoing professional development. Now, I want to deal with that last one just for a sec here. One of the myths around accreditation is that a school has to have state-certified teachers in order to be accredited, and that is not necessarily the case. There are certainly some accrediting agencies that may require that, but not all of them require that. But they do require that there's some level of credentialing with your faculty, and that there is, more importantly, some level of ongoing professional development. You don't just put a teacher in the room, and especially if it's someone who has not been formally trained to be a teacher, you put them in a room, you give them a book, and they teach the students, and that's it. Okay, so an accrediting agency is going to want to see how are you providing ongoing professional development for those teachers in the rooms with the children. Being in compliance with these standards, they also indicate things like making data-informed decisions for increased effectiveness. I used to say data-based decisions, but I had to change my language a little bit to data-informed, because the decisions that you make, the data just gives you some additional information that you're using to make those decisions. It's not necessarily going to be everything based on that particular data that you have. But it indicates that the school is operating in a safe environment conducive for learning, and that it's operating according to effective practices and operating according to local and federal, state regulations. Now, this area is talking not like telling you how to teach or that type of thing. It's related to, do you have what do they call it, the operating license? It's a business, so you have to have that. Do you have the type of insurance that you need to make sure that the insurance covers liability for anything happening? If you provide transportation for the children, are your drivers of that transportation, are they certified to drive children, as well as you have the proper type of liability insurance? So though it checks, the accrediting agencies will check to make sure those types of things are in place. What happened? Okay, so now let's look at some of the myths surrounding accreditation. So one is that being accredited requires that you submit to governmental standards for education. And the fact is that the members of the accrediting agencies, these are not governmental officials. These are educators, and they're representatives from the various schools that are accredited by that agency. So if you were accredited by that agency, a school that was accredited by that agency, there would be people from your school who would volunteer to serve on these different committees that would actually go out and visit the schools, read their self-studies to see if they are actually operating in compliance with the various standards. So these are not governmental officials that are coming up with these standards. And the standards are not, they're not related to how you do what you do. For example, because I had a conversation, Janelle and I, we were talking this morning about the Common Core curriculum. All right, an accrediting agency is not going to say you have to use the Common Core curriculum, but they are going to say whatever your curriculum is must be aligned with your educational objectives. So I have seen schools that advertise, for example, they use the Abeka books, and that's their curriculum. Abeka books is not a curriculum. They're textbooks. Okay, they can be used as a resource for implementing your curriculum. But your curriculum includes all of the things that you do in order to achieve your educational objectives. So one of the problems with saying that a set of textbooks is your curriculum is that those particular textbooks, I know, well, at that particular time when I looked at it, there was a school that had as part of their mission instilling pride in African American heritage, that type of thing, as well as also dealing with using technology with integrity in a multicultural world, that type of thing. Well, at that particular time, there was hardly anything in an Abeka book that had anything to do with African American heritage other than like Martin Luther King, Phyllis Wheatley. That was about it. Of course, Malcolm X wasn't going to be in there. None of that was going to be part of that. So if you say that's your curriculum, it's not aligned with your educational objectives. So you would not be in compliance with that particular standard. So another myth has to do with being accredited will result in losing the school's integrity and authenticity. And this is one that is particularly worrisome for Christian schools. If they're basing their curriculum, their core values on biblical standards. So the fact is that the process focuses on verifying that the school is operating in compliance with its mission and core values and educational objectives. So if you say that part of our mission includes adhering to, or our core values include adhering to biblical principles, where they're going to look to see, does your curriculum reflect that? Do your activities that you have at the school, does it reflect that? Is your environment reflective of that? And so that's what's going to cause you to be in compliance. If you're not doing that, then you would be out of compliance. And there are actually accrediting agencies that are specifically for Christian schools. And they look at those types of things, and then some of them have dual accreditation with other agencies like, well, it was Advanced Ed or Cognia now. so you can get both of those things. So it's not going to cause you to lose the integrity or the authenticity of your school. Another myth is that accreditation hasn't worked for the public schools, so why would it work for us? Well, here again, it goes back to, remember I said that accreditation is not an indication of effectiveness, it is a tool of effectiveness. If you have a tool and you don't use it properly, how do you expect it to work? Okay, so one of the things that I want to, just be clear, don't shut down being accredited because it hasn't worked for the public schools. Well, it depends on how the public schools are using it. It depends on how you use it, how any other school uses those tools, because they are just that, tools. So now let's look at a few of the benefits of being accredited in addition to basically functioning effectively. The accreditation status serves as a marketing tool, which is beneficial in this age of school choice. I like to think about it as a home inspection. If you're going to purchase a home, it can be in the right location, it can be the right cost, it can have all of the things in the house, it looks just beautiful. But the likelihood of you purchasing that home without having a home inspection is very unlikely, and it would be very risky because there's so many things that go into the foundation of the home, how the home is going to be structured, all of that you may not even know would be an issue unless you had that home inspection. Well, the accreditation process works like that for parents. With the schools, our school choices are growing by leaps and bounds. Being accredited is something that is going to give the parents a little bit more insight into whether or not they might want to check out your particular school. Being accredited also can make you more attractive to funding agencies as well as donors. Okay, there's a level of trust that goes into that. You can also, some states may say that if you are accredited, you can serve as a testing site. Your school can serve as a testing site for the ACT and SAT exams, but if you're not accredited, they won't allow you to do that. The same with accepting interns. Certain states may have, as well as certain colleges and universities, may say that in order for us to send an intern to your school as a private school, you need to be accredited by, and they may even have specific agencies that they want you to be accredited by in order to do that. And one of the others is student athletes. I know in the state of Florida, the Florida High School Athletic Association, they have a list of accrediting agencies that they recognize that if your students want to play public school athletic teams, then you have to be accredited by one of these agencies. And that's to make sure that your operation, your athletic program, is dealing with, like, Title IX issue? Title IX issues, those types of things. Okay, so if you want your athletes at your school to be able to be seen by talent scouts and that type of thing, you might want to be accredited for that reason. So I'm going to open it up for questions, but I did want to bring your attention to please feel free to visit my website. The address is there. If you do this it's like 3 to 5 minutes, depending on if you write more, survey, I have a new book that I'm finishing up, and I will send you a complimentary copy of that book if you do the survey. And I was hoping I was going to have the books here today to distribute, but I didn't get it done. They couldn't get it here fast enough, so I had to go this route, but this is good. There is, when you go to my website, you will see another book listed, on the website. Read it with caution. I think I'm going to take it down because I will say when I wrote that first book, I was very angry because I had just come out of some things with schools and seen some things, and I was very judgmental. And in all full transparency, I was very angry, and you feel it when you read the book. When I go back and I was like, oh yeah, I was really having some issues here. But but I realized that I wrote that book in response to some isolated situations that I had experienced. Since that time, the Lord has shown me that those were isolated experiences, and most people are not trying to operate that way. So the second book is, I think, has a lot more just valuable information to help you understand what the accreditation process is all about and how to use it to help your school operate more effectively. All right, so questions? Yes.
Maybe you addressed this before I walk back in, but with the accreditation process, if you are accredited, does that help your students, especially since we have micro schools, if they want to go to college? Is that something that would be beneficial if colleges look at that or universities?
Good question. So colleges and universities are becoming less and less concerned about that. There used to be a time that you had to have a degree from an accredited high school, okay? But because of all of the school choice activity that's going on, the number of children that are coming through homeschools and things like that, they are not looking at that as much as they're looking at their ACT scores, their SAT scores. I will tell you, if you can get your children in your schools involved in dual enrollment, so they can take those college-level math and English courses, that is going to help greatly because they're coming with all of that done. And so the colleges and universities are really looking to make sure that if I accept this student, they're going to graduate in 4 years. That's what they want to see. So the more you do with getting your children ready for those SATs and ACTs and enable them to do that, you don't really have to worry about the accreditation. I mean, it helps, it won't hurt, but that's not really what they're looking for. Yeah. You're welcome. Yes.
Probably know this, but when they do go into the dual enrollment, because I got accredited for that reason, for what she asked for. 5 years ago, I got accredited because it put our kids in a better position when they graduated to apply for college.
Right.
So I did it for their benefit, but now that you say that really doesn't matter, well, kind of not matter.
Right.
Right. When they do take the dual enrollment, they're getting the high school credit as well as the college credit at the same time? Is that what happens?
Yes, yes. So they passed it. My daughter graduated from an unaccredited private school. And because she had taken dual enrollment, she already had the GPA, she did well on the SAT, as well as having the dual enrollment for English and math. She was accepted into Spelman. And, that at that time, that would have been unheard of, but because she didn't graduate from an accredited school, and I think, Denisha, something very similar happened with you because she had those other things, even though she graduated from an unaccredited school, it helped. And it's even gotten better now. Yes.
Are there specific agencies that you recommend for accreditation? Like I know you mentioned IBM. Are there?
Okay, so it kind of depends on the state. In the state of Florida, the Florida High School Athletic Association, they have a list of agencies that they recognize. So if you want to play or compete against their athletes, you have to be accredited by one of those agencies. And so there are different things for different states. I believe Florida does not require accreditation for private schools to get the tax scholarships or anything like that. I will warn you, though, it is a good thing to make sure that you are finding an accrediting agency that is recognized by like your high school athletic association, something like that, because there are agencies that will just take your money. And they will come out and they'll look at your school and say, oh, it looks nice. They'll ask you a couple of questions, and that's it. And they'll say you're accredited. But some of these other agencies or other organizations that are looking for accreditation in order for them to do different things with you, that's not on their list. So you do want to check out who would be the quote-unquote reputable agencies in your state. Yes.
I have been with Cognizant for the last 5 years. I'm an advocate for them, but I do want to say they are extremely supportive. I have been on their accreditation review boards, and I've learned so much the professional development I've gotten, and I've taken back to our school over this last time period, the 5 years. I do about 2 or 3 of those per year. It's a lot, but it has given me so much information to bring back to my school to enhance it. So Cognizant is really, really,
It's really good. Yes, yes.
COGNIA.
And that's across the country. They used to be SACs, well, they absorbed SACs. So Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, that's the one in the Commission on Colleges, that's the one that the universities use. Yes, yes.
How does this relate to charter schools?
Okay, pretty much the same thing. I use private schools as kind of like a catch-all phrase, but charter schools, even public schools, it's the same thing, micro schools. I'm not as familiar with micro schools, and actually, Bruce and I, we were talking about, some type of accreditation agency for micro schools, if that's necessary. But the standards are educational standards. So whether you're a charter school, whether you're micro school, whether you're home school, whether you're private, secular, non-secular, it really doesn't matter. The standards are the standards. And so you would have to look at those standards to see which ones apply to what it is that you're doing. So yes, charters, this works for charter schools as well as public schools if they use it properly. Yes. Thank you. And if you have any more questions, I'll be at dinner.